Did you know that millions of people worship at the altar of science and technology instead of worshiping the one true and living God? In this lesson, we will discuss the mountain of science and technology and its impact upon the culture. Well, if you haven't figured it out by now, the mountains of culture are also shrines of idolatry, which represent all the most popular ways that man seeks to worship something other than the one true living God. Each mountain appeals to different types of people. Thus, Satan has many different paths to hell. The mountain of science and technology appeals to those who have sought to replace faith in God with reason and logic. Unfortunately for them, science does not disprove God, but rather proves him. The problem with evolution. Perhaps the greatest scientific hoax ever perpetrated on mankind is the theory of evolution. This theory, which is taught as fact in virtually every Western college university imaginable, was first theorized by Charles Darwin in his book, The Origin of Species. In this book, he theorized that man, as well as all life on earth, was not created by God, but rather evolved without any interference from a creator. Evolution postulates that all life occurred spontaneously from one event that has been called the Big Bang. But the idea that nothing created everything defies common sense. So scientists have solved this with circular reasoning by employing things like over millions or over billions of years. We evolved from one kind to another kind. But this is the same as saying abracadabra. They are distracting you from the fact that nothing, which would have been the state of everything if God hadn't created it, created everything. Kind, a class or group of individual objects, people, animals, etc. of the same nature or character, or classified together because they have traits in common. Dictionary.com. So a bird is a kind or category of animal usually possessing the ability to fly with wings. Adaptation means that one species of bird will adapt to changes in its environment to help it survive. But evolution suggests that the bird will change into something completely different, a new kind, if you will. This, of course, is impossible and completely unobservable in nature. If you were to ask an evolutionist for one example of an observable change in kind, where one animal evolved and became a completely different animal, they would refer to the example that Darwin showed when different finch species supposedly evolved. But in actuality, this does not prove evolution since they didn't evolve, they adapted to their environment. In actuality, there is no observable evidence of one kind evolving into a different kind. Totally improbable. Mathematicians who specialize in the field of probability conclude that the odds of evolution occurring are nil or not probable. The likelihood of life occurring by chance is fantastically improbable. The spontaneous formation of life violates the second thermodynamic law, which states that all closed physical systems tend toward a state of maximum disorder. In other words, things don't evolve and become more complex by themselves. Put another way, the likelihood of human evolution is as mathematically plausible as a tornado blowing through a junkyard and leaving a complete and operational 747 jet. It just can't happen. So what is the bottom line? Just as every book requires an author, and every car requires a manufacturer, and every home requires a builder, likewise creation requires a creator. Why does man worship science? So if evolution is an unprovable theory, and it is, why is it taught as fact, and why do so many educators serve it blindly? Well, it's because they have rejected the God of creation. You see, if they were to accept the existence of God, then they would have to also acknowledge their moral accountability to Him. So in order to absolve themselves from their guilt and responsibility before God, they've concocted a grown-up fairy tale called evolution. But it was all designed to ease their conscience, the mountain of science. So in the mountain of science and technology, those who are disposed to academic scholarship worship at the altar of evolution in order to convince themselves and unsuspecting young people that God doesn't exist. But when science is interpreted correctly, it always verifies the Bible. In fact, there are men and women in this mountain who serve God and are actively working to bring truth to those who have been misguided by ungodly educators. The Bible says in Proverbs 1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So the fear of the Lord is the ABCs of knowledge. Without it, it doesn't matter how much education a person has. They are nothing more than an educated fool if they have rejected the fear of the Lord and the knowledge of God. The Bible says in Psalm 53:1, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. So when you peel back the onion, layer by layer, the mountain of science and technology is nothing more than another idolatrous altar to Satan that is designed to send millions of people to hell.